In recent days, the Palestine-Israel war that has been occupying the agenda has brought back the question of whether Palestinians have sold land to Israelis, which has been a subject of debate for many years. In this video, Easy History Channel discusses both the issue of land sales and how Israel has expanded its territories. Before we proceed to the video, let's briefly mention this. To ensure the continuation of our videos, which we have created with great effort, and to be able to explain history in the best possible way, we kindly ask for your support. Please don't forget to press the like button and leave a comment. We exist because of you. Enjoy watching. During the 1850s, when Jews began to migrate to Palestine, the Ottoman Empire didn't allow any foreigners to purchase land in Palestine. At that time, the Ottoman Empire opposed the idea of Jews governing themselves in Palestine, fearing the loss of control over the region. After Sultan Abdulhamid II ascended to the throne, he ruled the Jews could migrate and settle anywhere in the Ottoman Empire except Palestine, but he didn't allow them to migrate to or purchase land in Palestine. In 1892, this restriction was further expanded, and even Ottoman citizens were prohibited from selling land to Jews in Palestine. However, taking advantage of a loophole in the system, large-scale Jewish companies began leasing land in the Rishon LeZion, Rishon Yaakov, Ness Ziona, and Yesod Hamala regions under the pretext of agriculture. Thus, the first Jewish neighborhoods in Palestine began to be established in the early 1900s. During World War I, the British, who wanted to gain control over Palestine, made promises of establishing a state to both the Arab and Jewish populations in response to their rebellion against the Ottoman Empire. However, after the war, the British didn't fulfill their promises to either the Arabs or the Jews. The Balfour Declaration, published on November 2, 1917, by the British Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour, is considered the starting point of the ongoing Palestine issue. In this declaration, the British government openly expresses support for the establishment of a Jewish state in Palestine. Arthur Balfour's initiative not only legitimized the idea of a Jewish state in Palestine internationally, but also encouraged Jewish immigration to Palestine. These developments led to increasing tensions between Arabs and Jews in Palestine. The Jews made their first land purchase from the British administration in Palestine through the Eretz Israel Plantation Company in the Sharon region. This process, which started with approximately 2,500 acres of agricultural land, expanded to 3,400 acres in 1926 and reached 500,000 acres in 1927. Upon hearing that Jews were paying good money to buy land from the British, Palestinian landowners also joined this trend. As Jewish lands in the region continued to expand, thousands of Jews began to migrate to Palestine from Russia and Germany. As a result of the increasing migration starting from 1927, the British population, which was 80,000 at that time, sharply increased to 137,000 in 1933, 193,000 in 1935, and 360,000 in 1936. As the Jewish population continued to grow, Palestinians initiated a major Arab uprising on April 15, 1936, which lasted for 3 years. However, while the Arabs were rebelling against British rule, they didn't hesitate to sell their lands to the Jews at good prices. Until 1936, Jewish land acquisitions were mainly made in the coastal plain, Jezreel Valley, Jordan Valley, and Galilee. While the Jews began to settle in these areas, the Arabs, whose numbers decreased compared to the Jews, started migrating to other regions. The outbreak of World War II and Hitler's systematic genocide of the Jews further increased Jewish migration to Palestine. During this period, large-scale Jewish companies made significant land purchases in Palestine, with 75 of these purchases being from the British Mandate administration and 25% from Palestinian landowners. As a result, by 1945, the Jews had acquired 10% of the country. In early 1946, in response to the Arab uprising against Jewish immigration, the British administration banned further Jewish entry into Palestine. In order to protect the rights of the Jews, the organization called Haganah engaged in armed terrorist acts. Particularly notable were the bombing of the King David Hotel, which resulted in the death of 91 people, and the attacks on Arab areas that claimed the lives of hundreds of civilians. During this period, thousands of Jews continued to secretly migrate to Palestine through various Jewish organizations, while also continuing to purchase land from the British administration and Palestinians. By 1947, the Jews, who controlled 10% of Palestine, had a population of 600,000, while the Arabs, who controlled 90%, had a population of around 1.3 million. In the same year as the British granted independence to Jordan, they decided to bring the Arab-Jewish issue to the United Nations in order to end the Mandate administration in Palestine. The United Nations sent a special commission to the region and prepared a partition plan for Palestine. According to the report, 2 states were to be established in the region, 1 Arab and 1 Jewish, with 44% of the country being allocated to the Arabs and 56% to the Jews, and Jerusalem being placed under United Nations administration. While the Jews accepted this decision, the Arabs understandably didn't accept giving 56% of the country to the Jews, who only owned 10%. Subsequently, the Arabs launched numerous attacks on Jewish settlements, setting houses on fire and completely destroying neighborhoods. The establishment phase of the Jewish state, which continued in a Catholic environment, was extremely painful, resulting in the loss of thousands of lives on both sides. Despite these losses, the Jews, led by David Ben-Gurion, who didn't give up their dream of a state, declared their independence on May 14, 1948, in accordance with the UN Partition Plan. Following this declaration of independence, a war broke out in 1948 between Israel and the Arab states that declared they didn't recognize the state of Israel. However, the Israeli army not only achieved superiority over the Arab states that launched a full-scale attack, but also occupied 60% of the Palestinian territories. Thus, just 1 year after its establishment, Israel gained control over approximately 80% of the Palestinian region. Among the countries involved in the war, Jordan occupied and annexed the region known as the West Bank to its own territory. In 1949, despite the ceasefire agreement between the parties, large-scale conflicts continued to occur from time to time. For example, in 1956, when the Suez Crisis erupted and France and England attacked Egypt, Israel took the opportunity to occupy both the Gaza Strip under Egyptian control and the Sinai Peninsula. However, due to the intervention of the United States and the Soviet Union, who didn't want unrest in these oil-rich lands, all 3 countries quickly withdrew from Egyptian territories. After a hiatus of approximately 10 years, the parties faced each other once again in 1967. In the war known as the Six-Day War, Israel first occupied the Gaza Strip under Egyptian control and then entered the Sinai Peninsula once again to advance. However, in this war that lasted only 6 days, the Israeli army expanded its territories by capturing the Gaza Strip and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, the West Bank from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria, increasing its land area by 2.5 times. Realizing that they couldn't destroy Israel, the Arab country's subsequent goal was to regain the lost territories. With this aim, Egypt and Syria began preparing for a larger war. On October 6, 1973, Syria and Egypt once again declared war on Israel to regain the lost territories. Jordan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Lebanon didn't enter the war but supported these two countries militarily, politically, and economically. After a war that lasted approximately 20 days, Egypt was able to reclaim a small area in the Sinai Peninsula, while Israel expanded its control over the Golan Heights by approximately 500 square kilometers. Thus, Israel emerged from another war against Arab countries by expanding its territories. Until 1978, Israel had the Sinai Peninsula, but with this peace agreement signed in 1978, it returned this region to Egypt. However, it still holds the Golan Heights taken from Syria today. As for the West Bank, Jordan announced in 1988 that it renounced its rights in this region in favor of Palestine. In 1995, after an agreement between Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat and Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, the West Bank was divided into three parts. Area A was completely handed over to Palestinian Authority. Area B was jointly administered by Palestine and Israel. And Area C was fully under Israeli control. Currently, approximately 2.5 million Palestinians live in the Palestinian-owned territories in the West Bank. However, Israel continues to annex Palestinian territories to establish settlements for its own people. As of 2023, 93% of the region known as Palestine is under Israeli control, while 7% is under Palestinian control. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.